Hello guys, I'm going to be talking about arrays, and today we're going to know what arrays are and how they behave, and what do we need them, what do we use them, and why are they so important. So I'm going to be talking about that. So first of all, now this is intermediate playlist. So we're going to be writing cleaner code. So the reason for all of this is because we want to, shorten. We want to write a cleaner code. We don't want to do, like something that we can actually do with one step. We don't want to do that in several steps. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to store three datas, and these datas are all integer datas. Let's say I'm trying to store three datas inside three variables. So this is one. So I'm going to need three different variables and to store these three datas so that I can actually store them inside this variable one by one. So the third one, let's say this is C. So this is a whole lot of stress. So what about we need to store like 5,000 data? So it doesn't make sense if we try to create, you know, 5,000 variables just because we want to store 5,000 data. So we just going to keep writing int a, int b, int c, int d, something like that, which does not make sense. So we want to write a cleaner code, and this is why we have to use arrays. So arrays, these are blocks of memory that are actually next to each other, and I'm going to explain why they have to be next to each other. So first of all, instead of us to create different variables, we can actually make one variable that is going to store all the data. So instead of doing all of this, writing different, creating many variables, we can actually use an array which is going to store all the data. And this is why we need arrays. So it actually makes our life easier. So we don't have to keep creating variables. We can just store all the data inside one variable, and this variable is going to be a block of memory. So I'm going to be visualizing this. So let's say, for example, instead of us to create a variable like this, b, c, this is memory. So let's say this is memory, and I'm trying to store data. So instead of me to make variable like this, different variable, which means different compartments, I can actually shorten this to make life easier. So it's actually a block of memory, and I'm now going to name this variable hey, and then I'm going to store data. Let's say I'm trying to store integer numbers, and I'm going to store them here. So this is going to have their own compartment, but it's not separate. So they actually belong to the same variable. So here, what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to make a block memory, and this block of memory has to be next to each other. So which means here they have to be next to each other. So there's no way you want to make an array and then your first element is here. Let's say you have your first element here, and then I'm putting the second one here, and then the next one is here. This does not make sense. This is not an array. An array is actually a fixed memory, and it has to be next to each other so that we can actually locate them. And the reason is, an array, how do we locate them in memory? This is how we locate them. If you have a data, if you have um a block of memory, and let's take this like a house, and then you have house next to each other. Let's say you have like 50 houses, and these houses, they are next to each other. So if you want to locate your house, you just need an address of one. So if you can actually locate one, you're going to locate the rest of the houses because they are actually next to each other. So it's going to be easier to be located, and that's why we said Harry needs to be next to each other. The reason is we're actually taking the address of the first one. So this first element, we're going to store the address, and this address, this is the address. So if we can actually look at this one, if we can actually look at this one, then the rest is going to be easier because they're next to each other. And also, we need to know that Harry, they are fixed. So area fixed. So if you're actually booking a chunk of memory, I need to know how much you need. So that's how it works. So I need to know how much you need. So you need to tell me if you want to book an area. Let's say you're trying to, you try to make a reservation from hotel. They're going to ask you how many people. So you need to tell them how many people you're trying to make reservation for, so that I can know the kind of space I'm going to leave for you, and that's how it works. And this Harry, they are fixed. They are fixed. The reason why we say they are fixed is because once you make this Harry, once it's created, you can't change the size. You can't change the size. So let's say I'm trying to assign values inside this array, then I'm going to need to assign the values one by one with index. So let me talk about index first before I assign value. Each compartment of the array have an index, and this index always starts from 0. So let's say your variable a is an array of 3 data. So the meaning of this, it means this array has an apartment, or it has a compartment that can actually take 3 data. That's the meaning of this. So it means it has a compartment that can actually store 3 data, and these data, they have to be integer, and that's why we call it int, which means integer. So which means it has a compartment, and this compartment can actually store 3 data, and each data have an index. What we mean by an index is the number. That's a numbering system for us to know the number of arrays. Let's say you store 5 here, and here you store 7, and here you store 9. So this array has an index, which is actually a number system, and this numbering system always start from 0. So the first one is going to be 0, the next one is going to be 1, and the other one is going to be 2, and so on. So it's going to continue like that: 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how we number this array. And if you want to assign values, you have to use this index to assign values into this array. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to assign values here. So I'm going to assign values now, and we're going to see. So I'm trying to assign value here. So now I need to use the index. I need to use this equal to 5. So which actually means I'm trying to assign value here. So here, this compartment is actually A0. This is the index here. So if you want to assign value here, you have to use A1. So you have to use A1. So here has to be 1. So here you have to use 2. So this is just a numbering system that we actually use to assign values into different compartments of an array. So it's very important. So let's say this array is actually a 4, you know, 4 size. So let's say it has other compartments. So now it's 4, so which means I have to change this one. I have to change this to 4. So let's say here you're trying to store 2. So if you want to assign value here, here is going to be A, and you have to indicate the index. And if we check the number system, we see that 0, 1, 2, 3. So which means here is going to be 3. So this is how it works. So it's just for us to remember that this number system always starts from 0 and continue like that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I'm trying to say A2, then I'm trying to refer to this compartment. So that's what it means. That means I'm trying to refer to this compartment because this is the name of the variable and this is the compartment. So we need to always remember this numbering system. So if you're trying to assign value, you have to do this. You can actually do this one by one. So A, then I'm going to choose which other one equals to 7. Then A2 equals to 9. Then the last one, A3 equal to 2. So because I'm trying to assign 4 values, so I have to change here to 4. So this is how array actually works. So now we've seen that arrays is a block of memory that can actually store data, and I'm going to be talking about printing array. So if we want to print array, for us to print array, we also need to use all this index. So we need to use all this index. So let's say for example I'm trying to print an array, then I need to use this. So let's say for example I'm trying to print an array, then I'm going to need to use this, and I'm going to need to indicate this. So I need to indicate the index so that compiler is going to know which part I'm trying to display. So here is going to display the value stored in 0 index, which is here. So which is here. So it's going to display this value, which is 5. So this is how array actually works. In my next video, I'm going to be talking more about array, and we're going to be diving deeper in arrays. Please like, subscribe to this channel. See you guys later.